All right. This is the Baevielle honor run. Doing a little different format here. Instead of live streaming it, I am doing this one as short videos or shorter videos. I'm trying to aim under 10 minutes. So I recorded this honor run because I have completed honor mode 4 times, but I never got credit for any of them because I was running mods. So this is a modless run so that I will get credit. And this one's complete, unlike the ones that I'm live streaming. So this character will be named Baevielle. I am using the Shadow Bladesinger build from my spreadsheet, which I will link in the description. This build starts off as a wizard and is primarily a wizard. It has some rogue levels worked in. I changed from the rogue assassin dip to a rogue swashbuckler dip because of the mobility. So when you hit something, then they don't get opportunity attacks on you, so you can move around more easily. And speaking of movement, I almost always will roll a wood elf because of the extra movement speed inherent to that race. For this run, I did the cantrips Booming Blade. Booming Blade's very essential for for a melee spellcaster. I do Light because I need it in Act 2. And then Mage Hand. That's really useful just right off the bat. In Druid's Grove, you can grab the chest. So as with all of these kind of RPGs, it's always good to go around and pick up anything that's not nailed down, which is what I'm doing here. In Baldur's Gate 3 specifically, these Illithid tablets are worth reading because that gives you, one of them specifically gives you a buff later in the game. It's a hidden buff. And then I always try to rescue the Intellect Devourer named Us so that I can have the 4-person party here in the beginning. And that brings us to the first fight. And you'll immediately notice that a melee wizard without being a Bladesinger is super ineffective. I think I do hits as low as 1 damage. This Intellect Devourer is going to do double duty. It's going to be one of my high damage outputs, and it's also going to be the tank. So it's going to take most of the damage for me. At this level, you don't really want to spend spell slots if you don't have to. This is a 3v1 situation, so it seems like I probably don't have to use spell slots, so I'm just sticking with cantrips, trying to get close enough to use them. So the spells that I started off with are Chromatic Orb, which is useful because you can choose the damage type, and that can be useful sometimes. I love Longstrider. It's a ritual spell, so you don't have to spend a spell slot to use it. And it also, in Baldur's Gate 3, it lasts for an entire day, which is different than tabletop D&D. It just gives you extra movement, and extra movement is extremely powerful in the game. I'm always going to rescue Shadowheart here at the beginning. Same reason, really. I want that 4-person party, but also Shadowheart comes with command, which we can use to try to obtain the Everburn Blade. I also get Fog Cloud because, going back to the spells, I also get Fog Cloud. That's useful when you're getting the idol in the Druid's Grove. False Life is probably the most questionable one. Shield might be a better grab here. I don't like to use Shield at low levels because it just eats through your spell slots. Here at this part, I like to have 2 containers in my inventory that I can drop. That prevents the Cambion ads from being able to enter the room, which I think is funny, so I like to do it. In this particular run, I think there will be no Cambion ads. I'll get everything done before they become a part of the fight. But the thing you want to do Here is you'll see Commander Zulk. There is the Cambion, and there's a Mind Flayer, and they're fighting. And Commander Zulk is going to absolutely destroy the Mind Flayer. He hits way too hard, and he gets 2 hits per turn. So you really just want to be done before that happens, because otherwise he'll turn to you and start killing you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Shadowheart to try to command drop on Commander Zulk. And if I succeed, he will drop his weapon, which is the Everburn Blade. And that is a very powerful 2-hander. If you have a character using 2-handers, it is useful far into Act 2, really. So you will have 2 chances at this. I happen to succeed on the first chance, and the way that Commander Zulk is programmed, he's not going to try to pick his weapon up. He's just going to continue to punch the Mind Flayer. So I'll be able to run up and grab it on my way through. This battle actually is pretty protracted because you have this group here at the start, and then you have to run all the way across the room and activate another group. And then I don't think you actually have to beat them. I think you can skip them, but I always try to take them down. So going back to spells, as I was saying, Shield is probably a better pickup than False Life, but False Life is particularly useful at low levels. It just gives you a pool of temporary health that pretty much doubles your health at level 1. Then I get Thunder Wave. I like Thunder Wave a lot. It is useful in many circumstances. Like if you have an enemy you don't care about looting, you can push them down a chasm. If you're surrounded by enemies, you can get them away from you most of the time. It's not so useful in the late game, but in the early game, it's great. So I like to start out with that. And then the last spell I picked up was Magic Missile. I probably won't prepare that spell, but it is a useful one. Whenever there's an enemy that's just in like an awkward angle, maybe they're above you or around a corner or something, Magic Missile's gonna hit them. I will absolutely end up getting Shield. I will also want to have Featherfall and Jump. Although you can get away with not having Featherfall, there's lots of scrolls of Featherfall, and you can make potions of Featherfall. So having the spell, not super important. You can kind of say the same thing about Jump. You can make plenty of potions of glorious vaulting throughout the game, but I think you will find that there will still be times where you need the spell and you don't have enough potions to get through. For the rest of the spells, I also really like Ice Knife in this game, and I like Grease. Grease is very effective because the game considers you getting knocked prone as you just missing your turn. So it's kind of like a stun. I don't like Find Familiar. I think you'll see a lot of people recommend picking it up, and you certainly can. I think the whole Find Familiar help mechanic is just cheese. And I think both in Baldur's Gate 3 and at the table, I think a lot of DMs you'll find won't even allow you to use it because it's cheesy. And of course, Mage Armor, it's pretty binary. Either you have to have it or it's useless. And with the Shadow Bladesinger, it will be very useful early on, and then it will be pointless later. So I'm just going to skip it because I'm going to rely on scrolls, I think. So now for this build, I did give myself a couple outs for this playthrough. So I'm going to be using the Shadow Blade. The Shadow Blade is ridiculously broken. It outclasses every weapon in the game. It does huge damage. It is not D&D as intended, but I am tired of not having credit for completing honor mode, so I'm using it on this run, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm giving myself permission to cheese the game with sorcerers. So if I do end up running a sorcerer, I'm going to be using the unlimited meta magic and unlimited spell slots as well. So that's kind of the intro. I'm just looking at my notes. Yeah, that's kind of the intro for this playthrough, and this is the Nautiloid portion of the game, and that's going to be that.